Hey, this is Brittany, and you are watching the Living Beyond Asana vlog. And something that I hear a lot, and especially in my teacher trainings, which I've been doing for the past 4 years, as well as working with private clients, is that they get really confused, but kind of frustrated about how to deal with the toxic people and relationships that they find in their lives. Right? So, and this is why. All of a sudden, they've committed, or maybe not all of a sudden, but for a while, I've been committing to this deep work, right? To doing this deep work in yoga. And by that, I mean by going inside of themselves and starting to excavate, right? Starting to ask big, deep questions, starting to come face to face with fears and shadows, right? Like parts of ourselves that are uncomfortable, right? That we've hidden and pushed down, that we've even repressed, emotions that we even haven't thought about in a while, right? All that kind of stuff. Experiences that we haven't quite faced, people we haven't forgiven. When we dive into the deeper work that yoga offers us, right, that's really the work, right? It's not mastering the asanas or practice on our handstands. Like that stuff's great, right? But really, the asana is designed to draw us into a deeper experience of our hearts, our souls, our relationships, and our lives, right? So what starts happening is people start kind of getting clean, so to speak, right? They're no longer kind of inundated with an excess of this energy and this crap that just infects us, right? That causes disease and causes stress and causes fear and all of this stuff, right? Some of that's starting to release. And with that, their vibration is starting to rise, right? Because there's not a bunch of stuff that's pulling them down, right? They're starting to become more heightened and more aware and more conscious. And then what happens is certain relationships start to contrast, right? Relationships that have always kind of been that way, but all of a sudden, this person that's starting to become more conscious is starting to see maybe some others in their lives that aren't necessarily there, right? That aren't necessarily moving into that space of consciousness. And that is where the friction can begin. Right? And then all of a sudden, it's like what felt like a good relationship, right, is seen as a toxic relationship, as a relationship that isn't maybe necessarily serving you. Okay, so and there's questions of like what to do about this, right? And especially when it's friendships, because it's like, well, or workships. That's even more interesting, right? With friendships, it's like, well, do I break up with this person? Do I tell them I don't want to be friends with them anymore? And with work, it's like, well, I have to work with them. So what do I do? Right? And a lot of stuff can come up here. A lot of judgment can come up. A lot of I'm better than this person can come up, right? Like I'm better than you because I'm more conscious and I do the work and you don't, right? And that can come up, right? So that's all ego, right? So that can easily come up here. And a lot of just drama can be produced from this, and a lot of it is often projected out, right, on this other person, right, on this person that you feel isn't healthy for you anymore, right? Like, oh, they're like this and they're like that. I can't believe it. I can't be around them. Oh, they infect me, right? So I totally hear you, right? If this is your experience, if you're watching this, could be your experience, one or two or several people in your life. All of a sudden, right, it feels like there's a huge gap between the two of you and this person or these people. And here's the thing, right? When we start to clean ourselves up, and by this I mean energetically speaking, and start to commit to consciousness, there's going to be mirrors, right? In the forms of other people that show us where we still need to heal, okay? Whatever we attract into our experience is us attracting it, right? So the people that are still kind of there in our lives, right, are there for a reason, because we still have to clear something within ourselves. So it's really not about them, it's about you. And I know that's hard to hear sometimes, but it's the truth, right? So for me, I had a lot of friendships that not all of them were toxic. They just weren't allowing me, and not the people, but just the actual friendships I didn't show up in my most authentic and conscious way when I was in these relationships. And I started to change. I started to change my relationship habits, like love relationships. I tried to change my drinking habits, my eating habits, like all of these things I slowly started to change. And the people in my life, they started to feel that, right? That kind of, that shift in me created a mirror for them of like, whoa. And there was some kind of rebellion and from my friends, and not necessarily in a very vocal like way. It was at times a way that kind of was unspoken and dramatic, right? And I allowed myself to play into that for a while. But eventually what happened is I just got so committed to my path and what I wanted to do that those friendships just really naturally, they just kind of dissipated. And, you know, those people that aren't in my life anymore, I have love for them. I have total love for them because they were in my life for a reason, right? And I wish them happiness and health and joy and abundance and all of that good stuff. But what started to happen is I started to attract relationships that are just more supportive of who I am and what I want to be. And what I wanted to be in my life. And I started to recognize that, you know, the men I started meeting and the women I started meeting and you know, the places I started going, like, oh wow, this is a lot different from what my experience was before, right? And all of it had nothing to do with that other person. It had nothing to do with me sitting down having to talk about that person or trying to get them to practice yoga or, you know, trying to turn them around to my side. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with me getting clear on who I was and what I wanted in my life, and me changing the energy within myself to allow relationships that were no longer serving me just to slip away, and relationships that were going to serve me to come in and attract into my life, right? So I know that might not be the answer that you want to hear, right? Sometimes the mind wants us to do something like big and bold, like sit down and be like, okay, I can't be friends with you anymore because you're toxic, right? And I'm not saying that sometimes conversations like that need to happen, but they don't always have to happen that way. Mostly, right, it's about each one of us getting clear and conscious within ourselves, because that energy and that vibration is going to attract what you want in your life, right? Not all relationships are meant to last forever. Some of them are, right? And some of them aren't. So there's two ways to handle that, right? Either we let them go with peace and love, right? Or if we're still in that relationship with a person that isn't quite where we are spiritually in our paths, right? There needs to be acceptance of that, right? We need to be able to accept those people that aren't there without judgment or like thinking that we're better, right? Because as soon as that happens, right? Right? That's all ego. So it's like, can you accept the people that you're choosing to keep in your life and just allow yourself just to be that example, right? Without agenda, right? Without agenda. And you will find that the people that want to be a part of that will stick around, and the people that don't won't. And that's okay, right? But the forcing and trying to drag people onto your side, right, isn't going to work, because no one's going to change unless they really want to, okay? So I would love to hear your thoughts about this. I'd love to hear your thoughts about dealing with relationships and you know, relationships that feel toxic to you and that you've tried to get out of or to deal with, and how you've done so. Right? And I will say that in the sense of work relationships, the same thing holds true. Shift the energy within yourself. Get clear and clean. Look at the people that are showing up in your life, right? The ones that are super complainy or super antagonistic, right? And notice what piece of yourself is in that person, because there's something, right? There's something in that person that's showing up that is getting to you because it's a part of you, right? So just give it a thought. And again, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And I hope you have a great week, and I hope this gives you something to think about, because it's something that it took me a long time to realize right? And it's so, so valuable to recognize that change really does happen within you, and that you are responsible for that change that you want to see in not just your life, but in the world. Okay? Peace.